How you doing, folks? Well, we are back at the Allis again today. If you recall, the last video that I posted showed that it quit on me while I was scraping snow with the snow blade, and couldn't get it started. Had to tow it to the outside of the barn here, where it sat for a couple days. My son had suggested that maybe I needed to put some heat water remover into the gas tank. He also suggested a small quantity of 2-cycle oil into the gas tank too, to help lubricate things a bit. So at any rate, I put a bottle of heat, H-E-E-T, yellow bottle. I'll show you one in a minute here. I just forgot to pull it out when I started filming. And I did manage to get the tractor back into the barn out of the weather. So I went to try it again. Now the battery has taken a beating with all the really cold weather we've had, so I charged it a few times, and I was going to run it I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago when I had the real cold weather. I put some extra antifreeze in to the radiator just to make sure I wouldn't have any freezing problems. But what happened was this. As you can see, I have this quick disconnect battery disconnector with an old tractor like this and old wiring and stuff. I don't like to leave the battery connected up just in case there could be a problem while it's in the barn here. But what happened was, when I went to connect this, yeah, you can see that I've got a short somewhere. I can't connect it because somehow I've got my hot and ground touching somewhere in the wiring here in the tractor. Now, I've done some rewiring in this tractor. It was a mess when I got it. It was originally, the D14 was a 6-volt charging system, and somebody had added a 12-volt battery and you know, tried to make it work that way. So I had problems with it. As you can see, I've since replaced the coil. I put a 12-volt coil in. I put new battery cables on. I had to replace the solenoid. That went bad on me because because of the incompatibility of the voltage. I'm not sure. Let me see. I'll come around to the side here so you can see a little better. I put a 12-volt voltage regulator in there, and then I don't know if you can see it there behind the bell is a fairly new solenoid in there. Now, what really should be done with this tractor to finish the conversion is get rid of this 6-volt generator and replace it with a 12-volt alternator. There is a conversion kit that's available to upgrade that. It's like, with the bracket, I think it's like $2 1/4 or something like that. Money I just don't have right now, so I've been able to use it this way. I was told that even though the starter is only 6-volt, I won't burn it out if I don't just crank and crank and crank on it. I can still get away with it, and that's worked for me for the last couple of years. But what happened is, when I went to start this, at first, when I connected the battery cable, even though the key was off and the starter wasn't, you know, engaged, it's tried to start. And then after that, like I said, I had the problem with the short, with the sparks in the short. So what I've done so far here is I've pulled the old starter the ignition switch, not the starter, excuse me, the ignition switch out from the dash. You can see it fit in this hole here. And I'm going to try to replace that. I'll run a diagnostic first on the wires and to make sure that that's my problem. I don't know. I know I replaced a number of the wires here. I removed any of the old wires that weren't absolutely essential to running the tractor. There are no old wires running to lights. The amp meter doesn't work. Anything else that wasn't essential to just getting the darn thing started, I bypassed for now. This was a number of months ago, because I had a short like that before. Actually, it was one of these wires in here was rubbed bare, and it was touching the frame of the tractor, so that grounded it. So that was my problem there. Now, whether I have something like that again, I don't know. I've got to check it out. but my thinking is perhaps it is this ignition switch has gone on me, and maybe I need to replace that. So what really needs to be done with this tractor is all the wiring redone and all the wiring modernized. So I don't know if I'll get to do all that. If you remember the video that I posted on Christmas, you saw that my son bought me, or gave to me for a Christmas present, a new set of 4 LED headlights. So that needs to be done on here. These lights have never worked since I've had the tractor, which is okay because I don't do anything usually at night with it. But I would like to have working lights at some point. And probably, as I said, what should be done is this generator replaced with a 12-volt alternator. I'm not going to do that right now. As I said, it's too expensive for me to invest in right now. But if I can do some of the rest of the work to upgrade the wiring so that everything is new, hopefully that'll solve this problem with the short. And then I get the tractor running again and make sure that the other issue I had with the stalling, and maybe the stalling issue didn't have anything to do with the gas. Maybe it was an electrical short starting. I don't know. I'm not that great of a mechanic to know. This is a relatively simple mechanical system, this tractor. It doesn't have anything computerized. It doesn't have anything electronic on it, so it's old school. So it's easier to work with, but I'm still not an expert by any means. So I've got to trace down my wires, make sure none of them are rubbed or scored or anything that caused the short. And then I want to change out the ignition switch and see if that doesn't solve my problem too. So what I've got over here on the shop desk or shop table is my plan of attack. So let me just show you that. I've got, and this will be for either this repair or also to redo the lights. Again, I don't know how far I'll get. I've got 100 feet of 14 gauge wire. That'll do the lights. I've got a roll and a half of, short roll and a half of 10 gauge wire. I've got connectors, butt connectors, ring terminal connectors, a couple different kinds there. And I also bought a universal switch, a starter switch. This was a whole lot cheaper buying that one at Tractor Supply than going to, say, Allstate's Ag Parts for like more an OEM ignition switch for the Allis. That was probably about $30–35 if I remember correctly. So I'm not trying to restore this tractor to make it original. I just want it to work. I also bought another cheap switch, hopefully to use as a light switch for the lights. Again, it's just a toggle on and off, nothing fancy. I'll see if I can't make that work, and I'll change out the old light switch that's on the dash there of the tractor. And excuse me, to do this, then I have the basic tools. I have, and some of these are these are very similar to what I use for house wiring, you know, the regular 120 240 volt alternating current. So my wire strippers, this universal tool is also my wire crimpers. I'll crimp these on. Diagonal cutting pliers, needle nose pliers, lineman's pliers, the basic electrical tools. I've done videos on these before when I was doing the house wiring, so it's pretty similar to what I'll be needing out here, I believe. I'm certainly not as good of an electrician with direct current as I am with doing house wiring, alternating current. I don't have much experience with it, but I'm learning as I'm going. So, and my son is just a phone call away, my son the mechanic, if I have any questions. So, and if you remember, I told you he had gotten me these LED lights, a set of 4 for Christmas to put on the tractor. So if I can get that far, I'll do that too. I'll 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and it'll be great. Now, in addition, I did some research to help. Went online. There's a basic wiring diagram for an Allis D14. I've used this before when I did some of the replacements. What I also did is, with the tractor, someone had taken the original owner's manual and maintenance manual for the D14, and had scanned it in to PDF files and burned it to a CD. So when I got the tractor from the guy that I bought it from, he gave me the CD. Well, I put that in my computer and I pulled the PDF files and uploaded them to my computer, so now they're files on my computer too. I don't need to load the CD. So what I did was I went to the page that showed the wiring diagram. This is the page basically with the instructions that describe what's where, and then I also blew one up to give a larger one to show the wiring diagram. Hopefully I can follow that, and that'll help me if I sort of get lost while I'm doing this. So this is a new experiment for me to get this detailed, involved in doing a wiring project on a tractor or anything direct current. Maybe this will be a good thing for me, because I'm also dealing with a problem with a short in the Cub Cadet. That's been sitting all winter because I kept blowing fuses. And I'm not sure if that's the starter ignition switch, accessory switch, if that's gone bad, or if I've got bad wire in there. I haven't even started to pull that apart yet. That happened when I was doing a roofing project back in October, so I was all done mowing, so it was something that wasn't essential. Oh, I also brought my torch out here with me to shrink the butt connectors. They suggest you do that just so that it makes your connection watertight. Again, I'll have to play with that. I've never done that either, so we'll see how it goes. But at any rate, that's the project. This may be a simple project. It may be one that goes on for weeks. Who knows? I don't know how much time I'll have to do it. But the ultimate goal is to get this tractor with all new wiring in, so I don't have a problem. Would I love to replace all these gauges on the dash here? Sure. But is it necessary? No. I know the amp meter doesn't work, the oil pressure thing doesn't work, the temperature doesn't work. I think the traction booster sort of works. But again, for my usage, I don't really need all that stuff. I mean, I can tell if the tractor's running or not. I can tell if it's running hot or not. If I was using this tractor full time and several hours a day, I'd probably want to make sure all these gauges worked. And this was a somewhat deluxe tractor for its era. Maybe down the road somewhere I'd add some of these other things. Excuse me. This was the light switch here. The knob is gone, of course. This was a dash light bulb, that so you could see at night. If you needed to see your gauges at night, you could turn the dash light on. And believe it or not, this is what it looks like. It was a cigarette lighter. I guess in the 50s a lot of farmers smoked, so they put that in as an accessory. I pulled the back part of it out and stuck it in my my toolbox, because I didn't want there to be any possibility that it would get hot, you know, like the cigarette lighters do. So, I mean, maybe down the road somewhere I could replace that and use that as a charging port. If I have the 12-volt battery here, I could use it to charge, say, a cell phone or something of that nature if I needed it, or plug in some kind of accessory. I obviously wouldn't use it as a cigarette lighter, having never smoked nor want to, but it could be used for something else, so I don't know. It'd be nice to do all this, but I'm not worried about it right now. I just want to get the tractor that the engine runs and it drives for me, and I can do the work I need to do with it. So that's the project, and we'll kind of fill you in as we go along here with it. We'll see where we end up. This tractor, I think, has a lot of good years left in it if some of this maintenance is done on it, and hopefully that I can get it running now, and then in the spring I can go over it more. I'll probably do an oil change in the spring, and I still have that ignition upgrade to do to change points and plugs, plug wires, distributor cap, etc. That I still have the parts for that. I need to do that. So plenty of work with an old piece of equipment, but again, you know, this tractor is a year older than I am, and it's still going, and it's doing the work I needed to do here. So if I can keep it running for a minimal amount of money, hey, why not? So hang in there. We'll show you what we're doing, and maybe if you have some tips or suggestions for me, I'd be happy to get those too. So we'll start this shortly. Okay, first update on our wiring project. I tried to disconnect the wires from the ignition switch, and I still had the short, so that didn't solve my problem. So as you see, I pulled the battery out. Thought I'll start from the battery and work my way through the wiring, see if I can find if there's a short somewhere else. So both battery terminals look good. The terminals and the cables look good. There's nothing rubbed through or anything like that that could be causing the short. Let me walk around here, sorry. I also thought maybe, as you can see, I pulled all 3 wires off the ignition switch, and none of them were touching anything. I know that when I tried to connect the battery cable again, and still it was shorting. I know, as I said before, that the amp meter didn't work on this, so I gave it another try. I actually cut the leads to the amp meter, thinking that, well, I can just see if maybe there's a short in the amp meter itself, but I was still getting the short at the battery when I tried to touch the, connect the terminal. So now what I've done is I removed the battery cable from the solenoid, and also the wire that was running from the solenoid to the amp meter. And what I'm going to try to do now is, here on the voltage regulator, this wire coming from the generator, I think that's the what was that, the F wire, the F connector coming from the generator, broke loose while I was working here. I don't know if it was loose and that was causing my problem, but I put a new connector on and fastened that down. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to connect this up by bypassing the amp meter completely. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wire, the one end was connected to the solenoid, the other one came up here to the amp meter. So what I'm going to do is I took a piece of wire, shortened it. I'm going to go directly from the solenoid into the bat connector on the voltage regulator here, and see if that solves my problem. I know I should have an amp meter on my tractor, obviously, but again, as I said, this one wasn't working anyhow, so until I can get a new one, I won't worry about it. I can always add that later. I just want to solve this problem with this short so I can get the tractor started and use it, and we'll see where we go from there, see if this solves the problem. If not, we'll have to try something else. I'll have to keep picking away at it, so I don't know. We'll see. I'll come back to you. Okay, well, the saga continues. What I've done is I reconnected the wire that was loose. I bypassed the amp meter that doesn't work, and basically I just ran the wire was running from the solenoid to the amp meter, and then a second wire was running back from the amp meter to the voltage regulator, the BAT terminal. So what I did is I just shortened the wire and ran it right from the solenoid to the BAT terminal. So let's see what happens here. My son seemed to think this wasn't a very good idea, so we'll see if I destroy everything or not. I did connect the battery, as you can see, and there's no short now. So somehow I managed to cure that short, I guess. Let's see if the tractor will start. Haven't tried this yet, so you're with me for this. Oh, that was pretty close. Let's try it again. It's a bit cold. Try just a little bit of choke here. I usually don't like to choke much because it floods easy. hesitant to back it out of the barn just in case it wants to stall out. So I guess we'll just let it sit and run here for a little bit and see what happens. Have some windows open and the garage door open, so I shouldn't die of carbon monoxide. Well, considering I haven't run this tractor much since the fall, it's not doing too bad. Out it wasn't the ignition switch. You can see I put the old one back in. The brake on. I'd love to take it out and scrape the snow, but I'm afraid that it'll stall on it. Just have to let it run a little bit and see what happens. I'll come back to you. So far, so good. Okay, well, we're done letting it run. Had a little bit of overflow with the antifreeze. I don't know what it is about this tractor. I had the same thing last summer. I thought my antifreeze was a little low because it wasn't right up to the cap, and I put extra in, and what I had was some spilled out. It doesn't look like I have a problem with a cracked radiator or anything because there was none on the floor before I ran it, and it wasn't frozen or anything. So I had added some when it wasn't running, when we hit the real cold weather, hoping that you know, that there wouldn't be an issue with any kind of freezing. So at any rate, I'll check it after it cools down. It just might be a quirk of this tractor. You can't fill the radiator full. I don't know, but I know I ran in a lot of hot weather last year and didn't have any problems with overheating. It just doesn't want to take as much antifreeze as you'd think it should. So at any rate, maybe some of you guys who have D14s know a little more about that. But so the initial problem seems to be fixed. Well, the two initial problems, I'm sorry, about it stalling out like it did in the previous video when I was scraping snow. Maybe adding the heat helped clear the gas lines of water in it. Maybe that's all it was from the summer with all the humidity. And also now the short is gone, so whatever I did, whether it was bypassing the amp meter or reconnecting that other cable that seemed to be a bit loose, the F line coming from the generator, I don't know, but we'll see. My next phase will be to do more wiring on it. I do want to get lights on it and so on, as I said before. I guess what I'm going to do is see about getting another amp meter too. I don't want to run this without an amp meter, just in case my son's fears are legitimate that it could cause some problems to not do that. So we'll see, but at least it started for me today. It ran okay, sounded okay. Again, it runs a little rough because I have to do that tune-up on it, but at least it's working again. So should I need it to scrape snow, I can. The mess that we just got yesterday really isn't enough. It's just a couple inches with crustiness on the top, and that's going to melt tomorrow because it's supposed to be 40, I believe. So I'm not going to mess with it, but if we get a more significant storm, I need this to be ready to go. So at any rate, you see me fumbling my way through trying to figure out an electrical system on a 12-volt direct current piece of machinery. And hope this was helpful to you. Maybe you'll have better advice for me on what I could have done differently or better. I don't know. But thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our channel.